We are exploring some of the fishing options in the Hawkes Bay on this episode of FCO Fishing NZ. Local experts share some great tips for surf casting in this area. Darren lines up the perfect target species for a new Spearo in his dive. And we fly fish the beautiful Tukituki River in the southern Hawkes Bay and get some great advice from local fishing guide Grant Petherick on how to catch the wily trout in this world-class river. The Hawkes Bay is blessed with miles of coastline for surf casting, including sandy and steep shingle beaches throughout the bay. We travelled to the mouth of the Mohaka River with local surfcaster Bruce Basher. And I had brought a mate along with me who had recently arrived from the UK for his first taste of Kiwi fishing. By casting a small black magic jig into the river mouth, Alan did not have to wait long to get into the action.
Getting there. A few bigger ones would be nice throughout the day, but it's a start.
Bruce was also into a kahawai pretty quickly. The kahawai were obviously running, as we were all getting bites.
Three casts and 3 fishes. Can't get better than that.
Now if you take a look at this is a really skinny kahawai. There's obviously something wrong. He's got some parasites on him. He's not in good condition, this one. So I might bang him on the head, put him out of his misery and use him for bait. Still bigger than the ones Alan's been catching though. Coming up, the river mouth fires up and we catch another local at the beach. Well, that's a guaranteed way to get a bite, start cooking some lunch. And I tell you, cooking bacon on a beach in the Hawkes Bay, you know, bar catching a 20-pound snapper, it doesn't get much better than this. The tide was rising and we were having a bite to eat when the locals came down to the river mouth to catch a feed. These guys instinctively knew where the fish were holding and worked their spinners expertly. On talking to a few of the locals, you started to get an understanding of the pride they had in this great river mouth and its bounty. While anglers are welcomed, respect must be shown for the environment, and it's important to follow the protocol of the area. Leave no rubbish or litter on the beach. Do not leave fish frames or heads on the beach. Gut your fish in the sea and only take enough for a feed. This type of self-governance ensures that the area is kept pristine and will provide fish for future generations. Once the locals had caught a feed, they set off home, leaving us to our fishing. Now that's a big fat East Coast Kahawai. A lot healthier than that other one we caught. Very fighty, great on a surf rod. Well, that's a big fat northern Hawkes Bay Kahawai that grabbed a flasher rig right by the Mohaka River. I better get myself untangled and let him go.
Safety in the surf is paramount. Days like today where the water is very calm, it's not too bad, but when you fish the roughest surf beaches like 90 Mile or a lot of the west coast, it's better to have a wetsuit. Wear a wetsuit, that'll keep you afloat, but even more important, some sort of a PFD like a life jacket or the self-inflating type. The self-inflating type work really well, so in so much as they let you retain contact with the ground when you're wading through deeper water. When you're into trouble, you pull the tag, it inflates, keeps you afloat, keeps you on your back and it lets you breathe. Where the life jacket tends to float you off early.
In the late afternoon, the cloud lifted and the sun shone through. Not exactly ideal conditions for surf casting.
We've had to wait till the late afternoon, but I've just had a bite on a piece of crayfish tail. So no telling what this will be, it could be anything. Just swimming in pretty easily behind the surf here, but it's going to start fighting just as it gets to the waves. Here we go. So that's one of the fish you would expect to get on. Crayfish tail. This is a smooth spotted dogfish. So yeah, they love crayfish, they love shellfish. They're actually a really good feed. You get good fillets off of these, very, very nice to eat.
Conditions were very calm and the water clear. Doggies usually bite if the surf is up a bit and the water has a fair bit of colour, even to the extent of being dirty. The size fish we were after would be in the 5 to 10 kilo bracket. Fish this size fight well in the surf and make great eating. These dogfish were pretty small, so we released them so they could grow. While we were waiting for the next bite, I had a chat with Bruce about techniques for surf casting in the Hawkes Bay.
But Bruce, thanks for bringing us down to the Hawkes Bay. I'm absolutely stunned. We're sitting on a beautiful shingle beach. I look north, I look south, and there's no one.
Yeah, we're pretty well blessed with that kind of beach around here. You can fish good spots. and not overcrowded.
Yeah, wonderful. Now, if someone's coming to the Hawkes Bay, what would you recommend that they bring as far as surf casting gear?
We don't have the real rough seas like we do on the west coast, so anything from 12 footers, 14, your average, don't need to go too expensive. Middle of the range stuff, you could fish 4-6 kilo line and still have a darn good time with some pretty good fish.
6-8 kilo line is going to give you a really good cast, but what I've seen here, you know, you don't need to be a big caster to catch fish here.
No, you don't. You just need you know, anything from about 15 metres or so outwards, you're fishing. You know, the big cast does help in some situations, but I've seen some really good fish taken from 20-30 metres out, and very nice fish too.
Old adage, Bruce, fish your feet first.
Oh, fish your feet first. I always fish 2 rods and one's always short.
Yep.
The other one you can go for it, but always fish a short one.
Well, that's a particularly good tip because both of us are fishing 2 rods today, and yeah, we both put one out as far as we can sort of cast it, and the other one we're fishing sort of half the distance out, so one in close, one out far.
But vary it as well,
Yeah.
you know, further out. Just try and hunt down fish to where they might be holding.
Yep.
You know, 5 metres might be all the difference you need.
Yep. And Bruce, two other things. Bait for the Hawkes Bay and time of year that you're likely to get your best fishing.
You sort of can't leave home without pillies, can you?
Yeah.
Some perhaps good salted skippy. Craytail works really well here, and it's a good general all-rounder. As far as your fish goes, your snapper will come on end of September, October onwards, right through till about March, April. They'll go off the bite and the spawn around Christmas time. Then you've got Kahawai all over the place from the same, and you've got blue moki as well in the colder months.
Now you're a bit of an algae specialist, and I have to admit I love your rod holder. You've got a double-barreled rod holder. I haven't seen one of those before. Did you make it yourself?
Well, a good friend of mine had it made for us and got it all welded up and powder coated and everything, but there is a reason behind it. I mean, I only have to run to one spot now.
That's true.
You know, the older you get a bit more cunning. Now I run to the one spot for both rods and save a bit of energy.
Yeah. And I see you've got a little bait pouch on it, so you keep your spare rigs in there, so you don't have to go backwards and forwards.
Yeah, and the bait cotton and things like that in there, and you can just do everything on the spot. Once again, you save a bit of leg work.
Cool. The question I'm always asked when I'm out fishing is, what rig do you use, along with what bait do you use? And we do use a couple of specialist rigs for surf fishing in this area.
For the longer distance stuff, you've got to use something like pulley rig, and that keeps your bait in nice and trim all line. And for closer in work, double flasher rig, bit of bait on there to sweeten it up a bit, and that's basically all you need.
So a pulley rig for out far and a flasher rig for in close.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can feel him.
Another little doggy.
Little doggy again.
Coming up, rigs for surf fishing and spearing black snapper.
So the rod and reel I'm using for my distance casting is a Daiwa Crossfire Heavy Surf. Now a couple of things about this rod. Both Bruce and I, Bruce uses Kilwell rods with Alvey reels, but both of us use 3-piece rods. And the reason for that is they're so easy to stow in a car. And modern 3-piece rods are really good. You don't lose anything by having a 3-piece rod. And I've got the Crossfire reel on here, which has a long cast spool, and it's got a good bail and a very, very good smooth progressive drag. So because you're casting, you're using quite a lot of power, you need a good drag that'll lock in. And we have a shock leader of 60-pound Black Magic Tough Trace for our shock leader so you don't snap off when you're casting. So a very, very good, sound, basic rig. It's not a really expensive one, but it'll do the job and you'll be surf fishing in pretty much any conditions. The rig I'm using today is a pulley rig for my out far rig. And what it consists of is a breakout sinker, and these have wires on them. And you need breakout sinkers whenever you're surf fishing so your bait gets locked onto the bottom and doesn't roll around, okay? And just above that, I've got what they call a bait clip, which is a little wire clip with a hook on it. And my pulley rig, my line runs up, it's 60-pound black magic line, runs up through a swivel to my main line, and I have a line coming down the other side with another swivel. And when I'm casting, I just hook the bait on there with the bait clip, and when it hits the water, it releases it and it free floats.
Purori in most Spearo's eyes are non-target species. For the new diver, they're an exciting alternative to some of the harder species while they learn techniques on how to get them. They're a fast-moving fish that at times can be harder than you think to spear. Don't underestimate their eating qualities. They're a good-sized fish with a big fillet on offer. Gemma and Mark are my dive buddies today. Gemma loves her see-through Omu ice fins. They offer great camo and are very soft to swim with. She finds a likely-looking gut full of purori and goes on the stalk. Notice she only has one rubber loaded for this rocky country, where shots are generally close. As I said, purori can be harder than you think. They've all bolted before she's got a shot away. Purori graze on the kelp like this one. They're not meat eaters, so ground baiting for them is a waste of time. They will eat bread, a common technique used by fishermen to catch them. All these fish are full of roe. Note the big round fat bellies. Check out the dark colour with white fleck patterns on this purori. The reason for this difference could be because he's come from under a ledge where there's no sunlight. The darker colour is his camo while under the ledge. This is typical country for purori on the coast or the outer islands. They are an estuary fish as well and hang around wharves and other structures in bays and harbours. The behaviour of the darker purori could also suggest he's a male trying to sell his services to all the females in this spot. He seems reluctant to move far from the ledge he's been camped under. Maybe this is his territory. He could be the lead fish in the area. Gemma's on the hunt again. Lying still like this, letting the fish swim in front of her spear is the best approach. That's a good eating size purori. Try and keep the fish out of the rocks once speared. They will get off or damage your gear if you let them. Gemma dives to free her fish before this happens. Don't try and pull it free from the surface. The idea now is to icky it, which stops the meat being too stressed. I load up to get something for dinner. Gemma cleans out the gut cavity. This also means no tainting of the flesh. You have to make sure it's completely empty for best flavour. In Australia, these fish are highly rated for their eating. Butterfish often inhabit the same country. I thread the butterfish on my float line, getting it away from my body. Gemma's looking for new ground. My next dive secures another purori for the pot. They really are a beautiful fish, if you look past the stigma many give them. This place is alive with all sorts of species. Watch how this fish gets tracked with the gun. Don't make fast movements. This will frighten the fish. Her knife is on her leg. All wetty spearfishing suits come with a built-in knife pouch and free knife. There's nothing worse than a knife that's strapped on. It's difficult to get on and gets caught in all your line. If you put your knife back in the pouch properly, it's impossible to lose it. As I said, there's loads of fish in this area. Blue mau mau and silver drummer are species we'll cover in other shows.
Coming up, tempting trout on the Tukituki. For this leg of our adventure to the Hawkes Bay, we had teamed up with local fishing guide Grant Petherick, who runs a guiding and wine tour operation in the Hawkes Bay. This area is renowned for great fishing and for having some of the top vineyards in the country. As rivers go, the Tukituki is a fairly gentle, shallow river that is easily waded, and it can be fished with light fly fishing tackle. A 6-weight fly rod and a floating line will cover most options. Most of the fishing is done with subsurface nymphs, but the fish will rise to a dry fly during the day when the conditions are right. On warm summer evenings, there is often a hatch where the fish will rise freely at the change of light. I was happy to take a back seat and watch Grant work the river. With the sun overhead, Grant prefers sight fishing in the riffle water at the head of pools. This style of fishing requires a keen eye and delicate, well-placed short casts.
Spring rainbow, early summer rainbow, very silver, a little blush of pink, lovely condition. Mostly rainbows in here, I would say they range between 2 and 4 pounds. That looks to me like 3.5, so you know, on the upper end of the scale. And very strong fighters. This guy, they'll all take, even a small 2 pound will take you out into the backing, so good result. There are some very big browns in here, not so many as I've seen in past years, but you know, we've every year someone catches a 12 or 14 pound brown in here.
I had a couple of casts at some fish that were rising and managed to prick a couple without getting a solid hook up. With the cloud rolling in, we had to blind fish in a few runs. This was not a problem for Grant. With his experience, he knew where the fish would be holding. Hooking and holding these fish on light 4-pound breaking strain leader took some skill and was a real test. You always need to take care when you are wading in a river or estuary. Of course, you must be able to swim before even considering it. Always have a buddy with you and look out for them. Have the right gear. Don't try wading or swimming in clothes that may get waterlogged and heavy. Use boots with cleats so you don't slip on slippery rocks. If you are not sure of your footing, use a wading stick. Keep an eye on river levels and don't try and cross swollen or muddy rivers. If in doubt, stay out. Grant would place half a dozen casts at each spot and then move on quickly to the next spot. This strategy worked well with fish being hooked very regularly.
Oh, we're just fishing up this run here, classic Tukituki run with the white papa rock, and the fish like to sit in the little patches of gravel between the papa, so hard spotting this morning because of the high overcast we've got, so we just have to blind fish up these runs, but they definitely like to sit whenever you can find this papa, this white rock. And we were just blind fishing with an indicator dry fly, and yeah, just pulled it down, and it looks to be about a 2-pound rainbow, silvery scrappy little fish. Even though it's not very big, he still managed to get us out into the backing, so we're just getting that back now. Just trying to work him out of the current. They're strong little fish. You lose a lot of these fish actually because they run with the current, and you've got to drag them all the way back up it, and so they're quite feisty. There he comes, not very big.
Beautiful fish.
Strong fighting fish.
So does the Tuki fish well all year round?
Yeah, a lot of the winter it's dirty, with the rain. And then in the summer, if we get a long, hot summer, drought conditions, it can get very warm and weedy, and the trout don't. You see a little bit of weed here now.
Yeah. So usually, what's the best time of year?
Up to Christmas.
Yep.
If we have a normal summer.
So October through to Christmas.
Yeah, September even it fishes well. Little mayfly rise. Very silver little fish.
Yeah, beautiful. We've been out fishing for half a day on the beautiful Tukituki River with Grant Petherick. Now, the fishing was a draw. Grant caught 4 and I lost 4. My form wasn't in today. But Grant, beautiful river. What are your top tips for fishing the Hawkes Bay River, the Tukituki?
Reading the water, very important. Sunny day helps, because we like to see the fish. But if you can't see the fish, as it happened in the latter half of today, fishing the riffle water. And then it becomes a question of fly selection. It's not so vital which pattern you use, but like the sort of pheasant tail here, a 14 or a 16, that's going to do 80% of the damage. Apart from that, I like fishing a short line, working close to the fish, because the Tukituki fish, especially as the season progresses, become very sensitive to drag.
Yeah, so your fly's lifting.
Yeah, anything that's just even micro drag. We talk about micro drag. The smallest variation in the natural current, the fish will refuse the fly. And once they've refused it, they'll never go back and look at it. So I like to fish in close, drag-free drift, tiny point fly.
Now I see that you actually use 3 flies, and that's a law that came in a few years ago, but not many people actually fish with 3 flies.
Yeah, I used to be old school and, 2 nymphs and a strike indicator, but I got sort of sick of, especially in brown trout rivers, they'd come and eat the strike indicator. So now I use a big fly. This is a 10. I often use a size 8 stimulator or something with a big wing, high vis. Use the gold bead pheasant tail because it gets down, and especially in rough and tumble rivers, a lot of the flakes are on the bigger fly. As the season progresses and the fish get more selective, they're taking a little fly, but you have to get it in their face. You have to force feed them. So that really becomes the function of the big fly, to get that in the zone, get the small point fly into that zone.
Now the Tuki's a fairly major river. Access for general public, is there plenty of access points, plenty of fishing places the fishermen can go to fish the Tuki?
Yeah, great broad river. It's probably 50 or 60 kilometres of fishable water and lots of good public access points. Fish and Game have actually put a pamphlet out that highlights them. I think there was 24 that I saw access points that are available to the public, and because it's so broad and such an easy walking profile, you can range up and down it for a long way.
Well, our little sojourn today in our Hawkes Bay special is a little bit of trout fishing, half a day's trout fishing, but the luxury of it is you no more than 10 minutes from a river, and then we come back to one of the local wineries, which there are plenty of, and have delightful food and a good glass of wine.
Cheers.
Cheers, Trout. Thank you very much.
Great day, thanks.